Hey guys, this is Blue Thunder Key King here, and welcome back to another video. Today, we will be ranking every Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 3. Now before we begin, I think it'd be wise to lay out some quick ground rules. First and foremost, this ranking is simply and solely my opinion based on how I enjoy the game. If you believe one Keyblade belongs higher or lower on the list, I'd be happy to hear your ranking in the comments below, so long as you keep it civil down there. Second, we will be excluding most of the console exclusives. I enjoy the game on the PlayStation 5, so Midnight Blue will be the only exclusive ranked. Third, we will be ranking these Keyblades based on three major pillars: the appearance, the fun factor, and their Keyblade transformations, with fun factor taking the most precedent. So if a Keyblade doesn't look all that cool in any form, but is still incredibly satisfying and fun to use, it can still rank decently well on this list. And finally, just because Keyblades are at the bottom of the list doesn't necessarily mean that I find them bad, unless they actively specify that. I just find them the least enjoyable. I believe every Keyblade in this game has its place and purpose, and what doesn't appeal to me may appeal to someone else a whole lot more. With all our bases covered, let's unlock this list. To be honest, it was really hard to pick what I believe to be my least favorite weapon in the game. Even the Kingdom Key, as vanilla as it can be, has its merits. But in the end, I decided to go with the Starlight Keyblade, obtained towards the end of the game after vanquishing the Demon Tide in the Badlands of the Keyblade Graveyard. The Starlight Keyblade is a rather underwhelming reward for such a momentous feat by the Half-Pint Trio. It looks basic, essentially being a recolor of the Kingdom Key with a 5-pointed star serving as the teeth of the blade. Its form change is just a rehash of the Kingdom Keys, and all in all, it just feels lazy. Lore significance, no matter how much there may be tied to a Keyblade, isn't enough to win me over. The only thing this one has going for it, in my opinion, is its shot locks, which are admittedly very cool. Given to the player at the start of their latest adventure, the Kingdom Key is an iconic piece of Sora's arsenal that needs no introduction. However, it will unfortunately be likely to receive a send-off very early in the player's journey, even after learning about the upgrade forge run by the Moogles. Calling upon memories past, the transformation allows Sora to enter second form, calling upon a selection of moves and abilities that were prominent in Kingdom Hearts 2. While a classic piece of video game weaponry and a smooth introduction to the game's mechanics, it is no doubt surpassed by its successors, both in the game and on this list. The Midnight Blue Keyblade is a console exclusive for owners of the PlayStation edition of Kingdom Hearts 3. Modeled closely after the Star Seeker from KH2, the Midnight Blue Keyblade provides a welcome visual change to the start of your adventure if you're willing to shell out an extra $5 or so to purchase it from the PlayStation Store. Armed with the potential to cast Blazaza at random chance when the situation command gauge is full, this also gives an icy spin to its predecessors on the list. Its form change, being yet another iteration of second form, however, does weigh it down a few places. Finally onto a drastic change to an extent, and it unfortunately doesn't make a great impression. The favorite Deputy Keyblade, while masterfully integrating the visual motifs of both Woody and Buzz from the Toy Story franchise into the design of its base form, takes a sharp nosedive in the fun factor and its two Keyblade transformations. The first of them, the Hyper Hammer, feels too large and unwieldy to be a practical weapon in combat, giving the impression that you're controlling the hammer more so than controlling Sora himself. Its evolution, the Drill Punch, fixes most of the issues of the Hyper Hammer, but still feels too slow to be particularly useful in combat, assuming you can even activate it before the power of the Hyper Hammer runs dry. Even the expensive hit count to focus ratio of the shot locks leaves much to be desired. Following close behind is the Classic Tone, obtained by finding and playing every single Classic Kingdom minigame in Kingdom Hearts 3. As a derivative of Favorite Deputy, this powerful late-game Keyblade unfortunately shares many of the same problems, including its form changes, the Boom Hammer and Clock Drill being sourced from the Hyper Hammer and Drill Punch. However, its superior statistics, 3 stacks of MP haste for its abilities, and whimsical design harkening back to the Rubber Hose era of cartoons, complete with appropriately bouncy animations for the Keyblade transformations, let this Keyblade find a home one step ahead of its predecessor. And from one classic homage to the next, the Honey Spout Keyblade echoes the feelings of the Shooting Star Keyblade the player obtains in Twilight Town, only much easier to acquire this time. Surprisingly, it is also just as easy to miss, as unlocking and completing the 100-Acre Wood is a completely optional side quest in the game, only really being necessary to unlock the Oathkeeper Keyblade. With an adorable design, a primary shot lock that changes with your forms, and the ability to slow weaker enemies down by drenching them in honey during the form changes, this sweet summation of a storybook is certain to show you a good time. The hero's origin earns its place on the list by completely reinventing the way you play in its form change. Summoning an indestructible shield, patience and defense become the name of the game as you absorb the power of enemy strikes with the shield up to 2 times, before sending it right back at your foes via a giant, ethereal, and honestly hilarious fist. The primary shot lock is incredibly useful in the early game, allowing the player to heal without resorting to cure or an item, and the secondary shot lock has an impressive area of effect. The one thing that really holds this Keyblade back for me, though, is the Chariot finisher. Even now, several years later, I still have absolutely no clue how to effectively use this thing, and, much like the Hyper Hammer, it feels more like you're loosely guiding the Chariot rather than actually controlling Sora. From the peaks of Mount Olympus to the streets of France, the Grand Chef is your reward for earning 5 stars in the in-game bistro. A gorgeous Keyblade designed as an absolute love letter to Ratatouille fans, the Grand Chef functions in much the same way as its holy forefather, transforming into a massive frying pan that functions as a shield. Where it surpasses its sibling in the fun factor, however, is in its finisher. The loose, unwieldy chariot has been substituted for a massive frying pan, which Sora slams onto the ground in an immensely satisfying crash. While it loses the healing factor of the primary shot lock that the hero's origin bears, the Grand Chef's elegant design, wonderfully absurd transformation, and the culinary coat of paint on its moveset make for a memorable Keyblade that takes the spot over its twin and just barely slides into the top 10 on this list. Sailing its way into 9th place, we've dug up the Wheel of Fate Keyblade. Earned after completing the Story of the Caribbean, this late-game Keyblade will probably be the one that sees most players to the end of their first journey, assuming they have yet to unlock the ultimate weapon. 2 transformations belong to this mighty Keyblade. The first, High Wind, trims the fat of the Keyblade's base form, which is brilliantly modeled after a ship's mast, before enlarging it into an unfortunately bland-looking but very satisfying polearm for Sora to use. The second shift, Storm Flag, is its perfect complement, hoisting the titular Storm Flag to High Wind, which waves and follows Sora's attacks in spectacular streaks of red while maintaining the level of satisfaction you get from swinging High Wind around. Combined with shot locks that send both spinning blades and wild slashes at the enemy, and an ultimate attack that summons a Kraken, this seafaring Keyblade is certainly a perfect fit for any pirate to bear. Up next we have the Happy Gear Keyblade. Earned by completing the Story of Monstropolis, this Keyblade has a wonderful design, being molded after the Monsters Incorporated factory and its doors. Its transformations start with the ability to morph into a pair of claws for Sora to slash into his enemies with. Upon a second filling of the command gauge, which unfortunately isn't nearly as easy, hence why I do not have any footage of it, the claws morph into a pair of yo-yos that Sora whips around with ease to make short work of monsters. Despite the humorous and even novel visual of Sora whipping about yo-yos like they're nunchucks, The fact that enemies are usually dealt with well before you can execute the second transformation holds this Keyblade back significantly on this list. From the frigid airs of Arendelle's North Mountain, Crystal Snow stands as a personal favorite among the Keyblades that harbor two evolutions, with the simple fact that it's relatively easy, at least compared to prior entries, to experience all forms of it. Modeled after a slimmed-down version of Elsa's ice castle at the top of the mountain, this gorgeous icy blade first transforms into a set of claws akin to the Happy Gear, before then becoming a pair of arm-mounted blades, along with some rather sleek ice skates for our hero. The finisher shows Sora freeze enemies in place with a dramatic stomp that would make the Ice Queen proud, or conjuring a frozen chandelier to drop on his foes that would make Hans equally as proud. Combine this with smooth animation, solid controls, and quite honestly a fair bit of personal bias, and Crystal Snow will stand here beyond the light of day. Jetting in from the streets of San Francisco, the Nano Gear Keyblade is a jack-of-all-trades when it comes to transformation, thanks in large part to the abundance of microbots that adorn its design. Once activated, the Nano Gear becomes the Nano Arms, allowing Sora to manifest whatever weapon is necessary for the attack at hand, from blades to yo-yos and everything in between. Its ultimate strike depicts Sora raining down streams of microbots while being protected from all angles by a shield of the mighty little machines. However, it just misses out on the top 5 for its underutilized abilities. Stun protection is situational at best, and form change extender is quite repetitive among Keyblades, leading to what feels like a mostly unchanged experience while waiting to get to the second, more powerful, and more fun half of this mighty weapon. Shooting into the top 5 now, we have the Shooting Star Keyblade. Received fairly early on, simply for completing the story in Twilight Town, this Keyblade boasts a simple but beautiful design, and two transformations that are pretty easy to obtain. First, the Keyblade morphs into the double arrow gun, creating a drastic but exciting shift in gameplay as Sora runs and guns through enemies in spectacular fashion that make Mega Man proud. Even changing how his magic is cast to adapt to his new controls. The second transformation, the Magic Launcher, stands out as the Kingdom Hearts equivalent of a bazooka, launching slow but powerful blasts of magic while also serving as a potent melee weapon in a pinch. With its immense versatility, satisfying gunplay, and solid power, it's no small wonder why this Keyblade stands out in the early game. Just missing out on the top 3 is, unfortunately, the Ultima weapon. Earned by gathering all 7 Orichalcum Plus through the various worlds, and then being forged in the synthesis menu. If you've acquired this Keyblade, it's safe to say that you've made it in Kingdom Hearts 3. With a phenomenal detail-packed design, an exquisite form change that practically grants you all the power in the universe, and a shot lock that can only be described as the Kingdom Hearts equivalent of a nuclear bomb, this incredible Keyblade is certainly going to help you get the job done in style. However, while I've used this Keyblade for the majority of my data fights, it's not exactly my favorite. It just feels too easy to win sometimes. It's close to being my favorite, but I find there are 3 other Keyblades that exceed its fun factor. To find out what those Keyblades are, though, we'll have to go back. Traveling all the way back to the first set of worlds, the Ever After Keyblade is earned by completing the storyline of the Kingdom of Corona. And what a divine reward it is indeed. Designed after Rapunzel's tower with the rising sun as its teeth, this gorgeous Keyblade is already fun to use on its own, having a superior primary shot lock to Hero's Origin and a stunning secondary shot lock. But when it transforms, this Keyblade goes from outstanding to revolutionary. Becoming the ever-elegant Mirage Staff, you create avatars of yourself with up to 4 dodges, and then, by mashing the attack button, you and your avatars fire bolts of light in unison, shredding the HP of any enemy you face. Then, for the final strike, You and two avatars rise above the battlefield in a massive tower of your own making, and bring down a storm of light magic nearly unchallengeable by any foe. Combine these with smooth magic casting that harkens back to the wisdom form of KH2, stunning animations, and what feels like incredibly precise control over Sora, you have the recipe for a nearly perfect Keyblade. And so, it comes to this. The last two Keyblades, seemingly always bound by fate. Oathkeeper and Oblivion. One embodying Sora's promise that he'd return Kairi's lucky charm to her in KH1, the other found deep within the throes of Hollow Bash in that same game. So, which do I prefer over the other? They're incredibly similar in stats and playstyle, but I've decided, in the end, second place on this list belongs to Oathkeeper. But make no mistake, it's absolutely earned its place this high on the list. Oathkeeper earns its place for a nigh holy design. Its shafts and shades of white, gold, and blue. The teeth of the Keyblade are even inspired by the Japanese kanji for light. Its exclusive shotlock, Sunbury Blast, unleashes a volley of piercing arrowheads made of light. It also stands as high for its form changes. First, the ever-radiant light form turns Sora's color palette predominantly white, and the kanjis for light flash onto the knees of his pants. All of his attacks are then supercharged with the power of light and some dynamic new animations. With the quickest second fill of all dual-form Keyblades, Sora can summon Oblivion and dual-wield once more, entering the legendary double form. Wielding light and darkness in equal share, his outfit perfectly split the transformations of light and dark form. His attack speed and strength are immaculate, and quite frankly, asking for anything more would just be greedy. With all of that being said, me hyping up Oathkeeper as this mythical weapon of mass potential, how can I possibly put Oblivion above it? Simple. I like its design more. The teeth resembling the kanji for darkness, the chain running taut through the center of the shaft of the Keyblade, the dragon-esque wings that form the guard. It screams peak Keyblade. The exclusive shotlock Blade Fury Eclipse also does wonders for its presentation, throwing out lightning-fast, spinning blades of darkness at your foes. Switching to the opposite side of its predecessor, Sora embraces and controls the power of darkness in the aptly named Dark Form, before powering up to Double Form. The shared secondary shotlock of these two twin Keyblades, Stellar Inception, presents a swarm of light and darkness that will utterly decimate your foes. While Oathkeeper and Oblivion are both legendary Keyblades, and realistically, any of the top 4 could have taken the top spot of this list, depending on the day, as of right now, Oblivion has my heart behind Lock and Key. Thank you all so much for watching this video. This is probably the most effort I've put into a project on my channel thus far, but I am incredibly proud of how it turned out. It is my most sincere wish that I can get more content of this scale out to you all in the future. If you have enjoyed your time here, be sure to do all the usual stuff on your way out, like, subscribe, you know, all that junk. And I will see you all in the next video. Later!